everybody. Welcome to Guided Listening. This week, I'm Jeff Antoniuk, and we're going to be listening to a really important album to me, an album that I started listening to quite early in my jazz journey. This is a 1979 album called Affinity by Bill Evans and Toots Thielemans. And we're going to be listening to Bill's arrangement of the Mancini song, The Days of Wine and Roses. There's some cool twists and turns in Bill's arrangement here. So some great stuff to listen to and a really, really fantastic band. And it's kind of getting to be spring a little bit. And this is the time when I'm planning for two big workshops that I have coming up. So here in the Washington, D.C. area, Rockville, Maryland, for the 21st year, the Jazzwire Summer Summit. Used to be called Maryland Summer Jazz. We have 10 faculty. We've got Grammy winners. We have all kinds of recording artists, amazing musicians who are known for their teaching and playing ability. And I hire them because they're great at connecting with people, which is really what it's all about. So I hope you check that out. Well, I've mentioned it once or twice here, and we are 80% sold out. Like, we're almost filled up. For piano spots, maybe we're filled up today. Guitar spots, maybe filled up. We've got like 3 or 4 horn spots left. So honestly, if this is something you're thinking about doing, like, today's the day. For all instruments, of course. And then our first international workshop, we're doing the Saxophone and Improvisation Summit up in Edmonton, Canada, and that's June 22nd, 23rd. And again, that's getting booked up. I think all the bass spots are booked up. And so we've still got some openings for some others. But, jump on these. These are built for adult musicians, folks that are semi-pros and are like improvising at a good level and want to get more information, or folks who are brand new. We make sure that we keep all the levels very specific with people. So we would never put a novice player in an advanced band or an advanced player in an intermediate band. That's no good for anybody, right? So we spend a lot of time getting it right. So I hope you'll join us at one of the summits coming up this summer, 2024. All right, well, let's dig in here. So Toots Thielemans on chromatic harmonica. It's such a beautiful sound, and this is so well recorded. So we're going to hear Toots on harmonica, Bill Evans, of course, on piano. We have Elliot Zygmunt on drums, Mark Johnson on bass, and then we don't hear Bill Evans a ton with horn players, although this is his album, right? We have Larry Schneider. If you don't know Larry Schneider's playing, man, what a great player. And this recording really sort of captured my ears, back when I first heard it in the early mid 80s. And I think Larry's playing had a lot of tradition to it and a lot of, just great classic jazz playing to it, but he had his own take on it, his sound. He had that brighter sort of Michael Brecker sound, which, as we listen to it, does it sound a little dated or something? Whatever. You can have your own thoughts on whether, you love that sound, but that was the sound of the day. And it really captured my attention. And we could talk about Bill Evans that way. We could talk about Mark Johnson on the bass that way, that they had they adored the tradition so much, but they brought something new to it. So really fun to listen to. Now, a big deal. This song is in the key of F, traditionally in the key of F, and this song has, it goes through the chords that it goes through, and it stays more or less in the key of F the whole way, like so many standards, right? So what Bill Evans did is he took the second half of the song. This song is sort of a first half, second half kind of form. A, B, A, C would be a way to think about it. He took the A, B part and, reharmonized, did some Bill Evans sort of planing chord sort of things. But what he did with the second half of the song is took it up a minor third. So instead of being in the key of F and the key of F, it's in the key of F, then it goes up to the key of A flat. Then next chorus goes down to the key of F and then up to A flat. So every chorus, including the melody, including all the solos, does this big modulation in the middle, which is like it's the sun coming out. Like, modulations are pretty cool. But then the cool thing is when it modulates back down, that adds a new kind of texture to it. So there's so much we could get into with the weeds. We're actually doing this in the Blue community for the next 3 weeks inside Jazzwire. So if you want to really dig into this song, do the free trial. It's free. That's why we call it the free trial. So it's like literally free. Join Jazzwire, do the free trial, and come check out what we're working on with this exact arrangement. So let's jump in and listen. So we're hearing Toots on harmonica, Bill on piano. And they're out of time. So Toots is leading it. He's playing the melody, and Bill is following. Yeah, it's Bill's album, I guess, but he's following the melody. That's what we do. Fantastic playing. Beautiful fills around the melody, but the melody's still there. Still out of time, right? There's no pulse. And you can hear when Toots gets energetic, when he goes high, when his timbre changes, when he plays with speed, Bill answers in response, right? So did you hear how Toots set it up? He didn't count it in, he started playing in time, and the band responded. So now we're right into soloing. So listen to Mark Johnson. He's playing a modern two feel, let's call it. He's not walking. He's not going bum, dum, 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 dum on the bass. He's playing half note, half note, half note, half note. But listen to how he embellishes. And Mark Johnson, coming from the great Bill Evans bass players before, plays great melodic fills too. So it's really cool to listen to how Mark's playing the bass here. Elliot Zygmunt is kind of keeping everything together because there's a lot going on. So staying on brushes. So we had a build at the end there, but Elliot Zygmunt on drums still stays on brushes. Interesting. Mark Johnson's walking, isn't he? So this has a different feel and flavor from Toots' solo because of the rhythm section, and especially Mark Johnson. So there's so much we could talk about with Bill Evans' style. One of the things is how he plays ahead of the chord changes, right? So there's a couple of instances there where we might expect the chord to change on beat one right here and right here. But did you hear how he made the chord change on beat 4, not on beat 1? It's a huge thing in Bill Evans' playing, how he plays ahead of the chords. Now we can feel something's happening here. Okay, Larry Schneider. And now we have Mark walking, Elliot Zygmunt swinging for the first time. 3 or 4 choruses in, 4 or 5 choruses in, finally on the cymbal. So you can hear the timbre of the saxophone. It doesn't sound like Dexter Gordon, right? It's that more modern 80s saxophone sound. And there's a lot of energy in Larry's playing. Think about where we started with Toots at the beginning of the recording, right? We hear Elliot Zygmunt getting into the conversation with Larry. So we have some great double time. There's a lot of nice sort of pentatonic-like intervallic things in Larry's language. We heard some Coltrane harmonics in his playing. Very cool. in Larry's solo, he comes back to the melody quite a few times. Earlier in the solo, but little hints of it throughout. Always has the melody in his head. Listen to this. How he's laying back in the time there. So we can hear Larry playing on the time, ahead of the time, laying way back. It's very interesting. And I'm going to say that's conscious. That's not Larry not having control over the time. That's him using time as an element of his improvisation. So now, it relaxed, right? Well, sure, Larry's not swinging for the fences, but Elliot Ziegman is back on brushes. All right? Mark Johnson on bass is back in that 2/4. And to bring the arrangement together, Toots comes back with the melody. And listen to everything that Bill's playing there behind him. This amazing counterpoint. We wouldn't call that little moment accompaniment. That was a whole second thing going on. Tag ending. 3 times tag. And now. So that's a specific Bill Evans ending there. Man, there's so much going on in there. We could go back and listen to it 3 or 4 more times and just key in on moments where Elliot Ziegman, the drummer, was when he was choosing to support the soloist and when he was choosing moments to kick the soloist ahead. Mark Johnson's 2-feel that, again, it was more modern. It wasn't sort of a 2-feel like it was a foxtrot in 1950, or maybe the way Paul Chambers played a 2-feel with Miles Davis. This was that, but busier, more melodic, perhaps we could say. And that's probably coming from Scott LaFaro, one of Bill Evans' very important bass players before Mark Johnson in the trio. And Mark, I would say, was certainly influenced by that more modern kind of bass playing, where the bass isn't so foundational all the time, where it's sort of an equal member of the rhythm section, equal member of the trio. So yeah, that's great. It's been so much fun for me coming back to listen to Larry Schneider. So he's, somebody, I have a couple of his solo albums somewhere. I think he spent a lot of time in Europe. Did tons of sideman work, but wasn't somebody that was sort of in front of me all the time as I went through school or as I was buying albums of what was going on. But what an incredible player! So this is kind of cool. So I know social media gets a bad rap because it's terrible, right? Except for I'm on it all the time, and it's very helpful with what I do. It helps me get in front of you. So in the 90s, so I'm telling a story now. Stick with me. So in the 90s, one of my favorite tenor players was this new guy named Rick Margitza. Man, love me some Rick Margitza. No idea what he was doing half the time, but just loved Rick Margitza because of social media. Like, Rick Margitza's my friend. How cool is that? Who thought I'd be hanging out with Rick Margitza online? And so today I posted hey, I'm going to be doing this guided listening. He's like, oh, we started talking about Larry Schneider and how he did a transcription of this solo that he shared with me. It's sitting right over there on my desk. And I was thinking about it. One of the very first transcriptions I did when I was out of high school and getting into college, and I so loved this solo that I did my best to try to listen to little parts of it and write some of it down and everything. So this is a very full circle recording for me, coming back to a recording that was meaningful and that I really loved. And then learning that, Rick, kind of enjoyed this. I know Rick got to record with Larry Schneider a little bit. So it's very cool. If you live long enough, interesting things happen like that. So I'm going to go drink some kale juice or something so that I'm around for next week to do this again. So thank you for listening. If you don't know the Affinity album, man, get the Affinity album. Everything on it is fantastic. And the Jazzwire Summer Summit, in DC, the Saxophone and Improvisation Summit, for all instruments, by the way, up in Canada. I hope I will see you there. As I said, the spots are going like remarkably quick. We're going to be sold out 2 or 3 months ahead of time. So jump on one of those today. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it. I will see you next week.